So, out of the pit goes our kart tester. If you are just joining us now over on the YouTube channel, welcome to Daytona Milton Keynes. This is the third round of the Super Champs. So 2 rounds completed and round 3 practice is underway. Once this practice ends, we will be having our Super Pole for both our Sodi category and our D-Max categories. After Super Pole is done, we will then be jumping into the race. Super Pole is just a one-shot qualifying. So the drivers go out, they complete an out lap, they come into the pit, they complete an out lap, they do their hot lap, and then they come back into the pits after that hot lap is completed. And if you are tuning in on YouTube, then don't forget to send some messages to support, whether it's your friends or family who are tuning in, and we can shout out some of those messages as well over the tannoy system here at the circuit, so they can know that you're tuning in and giving them that positive energy. I think that's a term the likes of Lewis Hamilton likes to use. So much positive energy that he gets at his home circuit. So the checkered flag is out then for practice, which means practice will be coming to a close. Our drivers will be returning into the pit lane. And you can see that some drivers come into the pit lane early. And the reason that they do this is so that they can be the first drivers out onto circuit for qualifying. So they don't run the risk of having any traffic whatsoever for their qualifying lap. So in our Sodi category, Charlie Fenton is at the very front, followed by, I believe that is Harry Asher, and then championship leader Matthew Glazebrook. Over in the D-Max categories, Kuba Wozniak's at the front, followed by James Bettison. James Bettison leading in the D-Max lightweight class. And then comes James Brown, who is leading in the D-Max heavyweight class, having come second in the N35 heavyweight championship last season. This is the second season of Super Champs in 2023. So more and more karts flooding into the pit lane now. Here is Ethan Pritchard in the 124 kart, racing in the D-Max Lightweight Championship. Was able to pick up a very respectable 4th place in round 2. Made the shift up from the N35 category, or it was the N35 category last season, to the D-Max class, and has had reasonable success kind of in that gap between the very quick D-Max lightweight drivers, the likes of James Bettison, Jack Stewart, Nathan James, Philip Babulal, and Adam Thomas, and then the rest of the field. And he's been slowly kind of bridging that gap, getting closer and closer to the pace. Lewis Barton, another driver who usually races with us in the lightweight category. I haven't seen Lewis today, so perhaps he is not here, or maybe I've just missed him, but usually I do catch that blue and white suit / helmet. Lee Schnitzler also racing, very, very quick driver, and always one to watch out for. Last season he had a go in both the D-Max and the N35s. I believe he wanted to get wins in both categories over the season. And this season for Lee, I don't believe he has done any rounds. So this is the first round of the championship for Lee. We'll see how he can do. We'll see whether he can play spoiler for some of the other heavyweights, the likes of James Brown, Ian Riley, who's been having a very good championship, winning the opening round of the season, coming in 5th, I believe, for the second round, which sees him second in the championship, just 1 point shy of James Brown. And then comes Kuba Wozniak, Graham Ward, Daniel Crawley, Sebastian Musica. Sebastian's been one driver who's been very impressive over the last half a year or so. Really, really upped his pace and has started posing more and more of an issue for some of our D-Max front runners. Josh Davis, I don't know if Josh is with us today, new driver to the championship, was able to pick up a win and a fast lap in the second round a few weeks back. But I wasn't here for that, so I don't know what his suit looks like, and I don't know if he is amongst our drivers getting ready to head out of the pits for qualifying. Is it possible to have the timings up? currently. So we won't really know where anyone has qualified until we grid them up on circuit for their race. Adds a little bit of suspense, doesn't it? I quite like that. Everyone's going to be heading out on track with no idea where they will be starting. And they might get a nice surprise. Oh, I'm starting this high up. Or, oh, I thought I was going to be on the front row. All of our D-Maxes, though, are out of the pit lane and onto circuit, which means it's a nice, clear track for Kuba Wozniak, who makes his way into the final corner. Kuba Wozniak with the black and blue suit and the lovely black helmet. Clear visor out for Kuba today. Across the line it goes Mr. Wozniak. Through the chicane, using that curve beautifully through turn 3. Pull the car back over to the right through turn 4. Nice and steady onto the power and then onto the brakes down into turn 5. Early first apex and then let the car go all the way out through turn 5 as you gradually just ease more and more power onto the car through the carousel of turn 6, one of the trickiest corners on the circuit. Kart back over to the right and then clip the apex of turn 7. Let the car all the way out. You can use so much curb on the exit and then down the hill towards the hairpin of turn 8, where it's all about maximizing your exit speed because it leads onto the back straight, the longest straight here at Daytona Milton Keynes. And you can see Kuba tucking his head down as he makes his way into this long left-hander. In the Sodis, it's completely flat. In the D-Maxes, you have to give a little bit of a flick, otherwise you can't quite get it flat. Turn 10, slowest corner on the circuit. Keep the kart to the right, in through the final corner of turn 11 and across the line for Kuba Wozniak. James Bettison, though, I think has visibly closed in onto Wozniak over this lap, so should be a provisional pole for Bettison. Then James Brown comes over the line, followed by Dom Balasatis, and then Ethan Pritchard will follow through to take the checkered flag. Here comes Ian Riley, second in the D-Max heavyweight class. And then there are more drivers who I sadly do not recognise, but I'm sure I will get familiar with them as the day progresses. There goes Lee Schnitzler and Justin Elliott. And is that the orange suit of Conor McNamara and Jamie Tyler Gooden right towards the back end of the field. Sebastian Musica also completing his lap as well. So we now wait for our D-Maxes to return to the pit lane. And once they return to the pit lane, we will be having our Sodi karts heading out onto circuit for their one-shot qualifying session. And once that's done, we can grid up all of our karts for our race. Very warm day here at Milton Keynes, which makes it all the more fun when drivers are sitting in their karts and they start to roast just that little bit. They get very eager to head out on circuit, and I can't blame them. I'm always eager to get out onto track. So just the final few drivers making their way down the back straight into that sweeping left-hander of turn 9. So 5 more drivers to enter the pit lane, and then we can get our Sodis out onto circuit. Hotspot it? Pardon? Oh. Then leave it. Yeah. Can I use that? I have been able to find times. So, on pole then in our D-Max category, James Bettison by 3/10 over Jamie Tyler Gooden. Ethan Pritchard takes P3 ahead of James Brown and Dom Balasatis. Justin Elliott in P6 ahead of Lee Schnitzler. Anonymous in kart 116. Then Daniel Crawley, Ian Riley, Andrew Hutton, Paul Studd, Faisal Merjoon, Andy Estray, Kuba Wozniak, Sebastian Musica, Alex Wood and Ollie Walker Kuba Wozniak's going to be one to watch out for, starting all the way down in P15, the current D-Max heavyweight champion. So, we now wait for our Sodi karts to make their way through to start their set of hot laps. We should be seeing Charlie Fenton's helmet popping up into view shortly as he makes his way out of turn 8 and up the back straight towards that long sweeping left-hander of turn 9. Here comes Charlie Fenton into the hairpin of turn 10, and he's going to be the first driver to set a hot lap, so we'll be taking provisional pole. Then will be Harry Asher. Green flag is out, and qualifying has now officially begun. There's another driver to watch out for, Matthew Glazebrook, making his way into the final sequence of corners. Into the hairpin goes Charlie Fenton. Can't quite tell from this distance whether he used the curb on corner exit into turn 5. Nice early apex for Charlie, and again, let that car all the way out through the corner as you just put more and more power into the kart and try to prevent it from slowing down by holding the steering wheel a bit too tight. Fenton then makes his way through the hairpin of turn 7 and down the hill, out of view, and down towards turn 8. Here comes Charlie Fenton then. Through turn 9 he goes. Hard on the brakes into the hairpin of turn 10. The back end really stepping out. Don't know if that's good in these 4-stroke Sodis. You don't quite have the same pickup as you would do in the D-Maxes. You want to be silky smooth. Charlie Fenton ragged that car around through the hairpin. Across the line then for Charlie Fenton. For Charlie Fenton, it is a 118.3. And now we wait to see what the rest of the lap times will be. Harry Asher jumps ahead of Charlie Fenton with a 118.1, but Matthew Glazebrook destroys that time with a 117.0. Cracking lap. Barry Morris, 118.4, just a tenth off Charlie Fenton. Adam Green jumps up into second with a 117.8. Hamish Easoner, third in the heavyweight class with a 119.2. Oliver Sheether with a 121.4. Still waiting for more lap times to come through. Ryan Taylor jumps up into third with a 118.1. Promptly beaten by Alexei Ivanov with a 117.8. Zach Venn jumps up to second with a 117.394, but it is still Matthew Glazebrook who is on for pole by nearly 0.4 of a second over Zach Venn. Adam Green and Alexei Ivanov will be sharing the second row of the grid. Luke Power jumps up to third then with a 117.5. So Luke Power and Adam Green will be on row 2. Alexei Ivanov and Ryan Taylor on row 3. Harry Asher and Joseph Fletcher on row 4. And then we get to our heavyweights. Charlie Fenton and Barry Morris on the front row of the heavyweight class. Zain Khan will be in the lightweights, I believe. Then comes Aidan Miller, Javan Addy, Hamish Easoner, and Oliver Sheether. But that brings our Sodi qualifying to a close. And we'll now be getting both sets of karts out onto circuit for our race start. And I'm sure our D-Max drivers will be very glad to see the Sodis making their way into the pit lane so that they can head back out onto circuit. And the wait for them is now over. They've got to have a little break inside their karts and get themselves mentally prepared for the upcoming race. And with that, the engine notes rise. D-Max engines are turned on, and out of pit lane go our drivers, go our karts. Just waiting for our final D-Maxes to head out, and then our Saudis will follow them out onto track. Our carts will be stopped on the entry into turn 9, and then we'll be gridding them up on the entry into turn 10. We'll have a rolling start for both categories, so we should be underway racing in about 2 to 3 minutes at time. Just have to make sure everyone is in the right order. So these are now being released out onto circuit. In a few moments' time, and our D-Maxes are going to be gridded up. Just a reminder of what the championships look like. In our N35 stroke Sodi championship in the lightweight class, Matthew Glazebrook currently leads by a rather large 8 points over Luke Power, with Harry Asher tied with Luke Power for second. Then comes Murphy Thompson, Adam Green, Alexei Ivanov, Oliver Sheether, Will Stevenson, and Joseph Fletcher. Ryan Taylor and Zach Venn making their first appearance in the lightweight category tonight. In the heavyweight class, Barry Morris finds himself leading by 3 points over Hamish Easoner. Then comes Aidan Miller and Charlie Fenton. But remember, Charlie Fenton has only done 1 round so far this season. In the D-Max lightweight class, James Bettison leads the championship by 2 points over Jamie Tiley Gooden. The pair of them have won 1 race each. Lewis Barton is third in the championship, but not racing today. Zach Titterton is in fourth, didn't participate in round 2 and is not here today either. Ethan Pritchard, Don Balasatis are currently sitting in 5th and 6th, both having had 1 round this season, so they've already used up their drop scores. Then comes Andy Estrate, Conor McNamara, Nathan Meacock and Kirsty Mansell, all of them only having had 1 round so far this season. In the heavyweight championship, James Brown finds himself leading by 1 point over Ian Riley and Cooper Wozniak, who are tied for second. A further 8 points back is Graham Ward and Daniel Crawley and Sebastian Musica, the 3 of them tied for P4. Following that comes Ollie Walker, Josh Davis. Josh Davis winning his one and only race of this season. Justin Elliott, Mohammed Hassan, the pair of them picking up P5s in their first round of the championship. Sorry, not P5s, P4s in their only rounds of the championship. Lee Henderson only raced in the first round of the season. Then comes Isaiah Eguagu and Mark Mansell. Pretty much all of our Saudis are out on to circuit, so we'll get them gridded up shortly, and we'll be ready to get underway for round 3 of the Daytona Milton Keynes Super Champs. Our D-Maxes wait patiently then on the entry into turn 10, and we'll be stopping our Saudis halfway up the straight, or halfway up the back straight towards turn 9, and then gridding them up on the entry into turn 9. We'll then have 2 rolling starts for our 2 classes, and then we'll be underway for racing. Especially with the likes of Lee Schnitzler, Justin Elliott starting on the 3rd row of the grid alongside each other as well. He has Ian Riley in front of him too. And James Brown starting on the 2nd row of the grid. So outside of the top 5 in the heavyweight class is Kuba Wozniak currently. And those opening couple of laps are going to be really important for Kuba, that he can stay in touch with the leading group. Ethan Pritchard as well. Really have to give a shout out to Ethan. Fantastic qualifying performance from him to get himself into third place, starting right behind James Pedersen. If Ethan can get a good start, he can get up the inside of Jamie Tyler Gooden into turn 1, find himself in the top 2, and maybe try to work with James Pedersen to pull away from the rest of the field behind. Ethan Pritchard has had a fantastic start to the season, really adapting to these DMAX karts super well. And then in our Sodi class, Matthew Glazebrook and Zach Venn on the front row of the grid. Let's see what Zach can do in his first round of Super Champs. Luke Power, Adam Green on row 2. Adam Green currently sitting down in 5th place in the lightweight class, so this is a really good qualifying performance from Adam. Our final Sodi car is lined up then on the run down towards turn 9. We are ready to go racing. I'm sure shortly we're going to be hearing those D-Max engines being turned on. And that little puff of two-stroke oil will start to come out of the back of all of those karts. Patiently waiting on the approach to turn 10. Almost forgot as well, once again, we've got the James front row. James Pedersen, Jamie Tyler Gooden, James Brown starting from, what is that, P4. So in the top 2 rows, and pole as well for the heavyweight category. Sadly though, no James in our Sodi categories. So we can't have, you know, a hat-trick of James on pole. What a story that would be. Looks like we've had the green light from race control. And with that, the engines are going to be fired up and we will be ready to get racing. James Pedersen, Jamie Tyler Gooden on the front row of the grid for James Brown starting in 4th place. He is pole in the heavyweight class. He's just going to be probably trying to let through as many of these lightweights as he can without losing time to, well, Justin Elliott starting directly behind him. Lee Schnitzler starting 1 row further back. And then you've got Ian Riley on the next row. Kuba Wozniak starting from the very back of the field. Our D-Maxes make their way around the final corner. And we're about to go green 2 abreast. When does James Pedersen pull the trigger? And away we go. Green flag is out. Fantastic start from James Pedersen and Ethan Pritchard, who goes up the inside of Jamie Tyler Gooden. Don Balasaitis up the inside of James Brown, heading into the chicane. Side by side between James Brown and Balasaitis, who goes wide almost into the tyre barriers, but has the inside now into turn 4. Takes the position as we are green in our Sodi class. Matthew Glazebrook leading Zach Venner through turn 1. Very clean from our Sodi field as our top 2 make their way through the opening chicane incredibly neatly. Bit of squabbling further down the field as it's almost 4 abreast heading into the hairpin of turn 4. But this is all working really well for our leading 2 of Glazebrook and Zach Venn, who are just pulling from the field behind them. I think it's also a good start for Adam Green and Luke Power, who are running in 3rd and 4th in their own little battle. So we've got 2 sets of 2 drivers in our Sodi class, and then just a huge gaggle of karts. Here come our D-Maxes, and James Pedersen has already pulled out a lead to Ethan Pritchard. Then comes Jamie Tyler Gooden, Don Balasaitis, James Brown, Lee Schnitzler. Justin Elliott, Ian Riley, and I'm not quite sure who that is behind Ian Riley, as that's Conor McNamara having a send up the inside of, is that Daniel Crawley? And now Kuba Wozniak trying to follow through, does indeed do so, gains a position, and on to the back of McNamara he goes. Matthew Glazebrook, though, coming under pressure from Zach Venn, as that looks to be Luke Power, who is getting a pretty good run. Can't go up the inside in the final corner on Adam Green. Adam Green in the black suit with the black helmet. Luke Power, black suit, blue helmet, if I'm not mistaken. And then just behind the pair of them comes Ryan Taylor. So Ryan Taylor gaining a few places at the start and closing in as he tries to hunt down the leading two. And Adam Green has dropped a position, and now that's Ryan Taylor getting a good exit out of 5 up the inside of Green into turn 6. Will get the job done as well. So good stuff from Ryan Taylor as he finds himself into the top 4, and now he's all over the back of, he's all over the back of Luke Power, searching for that third place spot. James Pedersen, though, has not been able to pull away from Ethan Pritchard in the D-Max category. He's being closed in by Tyler Gooden and Dom Balasatis. Dom Balasatis has definitely had a cracking start, looking for a move now on Tyler Gooden, potentially. I thought Tyler Gooden was going defensive, but here come our Sodis once more. And it is still at the very front of this. Luke Power sitting in third overall. Zach Venn right on the back of Glazebrook, heading through the final corner. As Charlie Fenton has joined into this battle for P3. Charlie Fenton is absolutely flying as he makes his way through turn 1. Charlie Fenton in the heavyweight class. That means he's got an extra 20 kilos. Tries to go up the inside of Ryan Taylor. Has to back out of the move up the inside into turn 2. Is always tricky in these Sodi carts. It's practically flat out. There is no braking zone, so no opportunity to really gain any distance on the car that you are trying to battle. But Charlie Fenton is now ahead of Adam Green and can try to find a way through on Ryan Taylor and indeed Luke Power, who's currently sitting in third place. Your top 4 D-Maxes make their way through turn 1, and then come your top 4 heavyweight drivers. Ian Riley just about a second behind the likes of James Brown, Lee Schnitzler and Justin Elliott. Where is Kuba Wozniak in all of this? A move further down the order as Conor McNamara has been overtaken up the inside into turn 4. Who made that move? Just having a quick look. Not entirely sure. Sorry, I've been saying Conor McNamara. I don't think he's actually racing, so I'm guessing that is Andrew Hutton then in that suit. I'll have another check once they make their way around. Barry Morris currently behind Hamish Eisner. Oh, sorry, that isn't Hamish Eisner. Hamish Eisner is having a really good race. Aidan Miller is currently ahead of Barry Morris, as Luke Power starting to pull from Ryan Taylor, who has for company Charlie Fenton still directly behind him. Dom Balasatis right on the back of Jamie Tyler Gooden coming over the line. And would you look at that, Ethan Pritchard is really reeling in Justin Elliott as our D-Max field are closing in on to our Sodis as they try to put a lap on them, and probably won't have too much of an issue either in doing that. And Ethan Pritchard really gaining on James Pedersen as they pass the first set of back markers heading into the carousel. And another position or a bit of extra time gain for Pritchard as he closes in onto Pedersen. Here come the Sodis then being led by Matthew Glazebrook with Zach Venn directly behind. And you can see the gap that they have back to Luke Power. Then comes Taylor, and Fenton is going to send one up the inside of Ryan Taylor into the hairpin. Taylor has to go up onto the high-rise curb, but he's still going to have the inside heading into the final corner. And Fenton really wants to fight this, looks for the switchback. But Taylor, very smartly, parks it on the apex and does not let Fenton get that switchback. Great defensive driving from Ryan Taylor, but the pair of them losing a fair chunk of time to the field around them. Adam Green, though, has fallen a few tenths back. Actually, it's nearly a second back, as our D-Maxes make their way through the hairpin. Where is Ethan Pritchard? There he is, going up the inside. Where is James Pedersen? James Pedersen is into the pit lane. for his first pit stop of the day. That almost caught me out for a second. And Kuba Wozniak bangs his steering wheel in frustration because he's going to have to sit behind James Pedersen, and this is going to cost him a bit of time in the pit lane. So I think Kuba might not have seen James coming into the pits, and this is going to cost him at least 5 or so seconds. So you can see the two karts in the pit lane, and you can see how long Kuba Wozniak is having to wait before it's his kart's turn to get a bit of extra fuel in. As Zach Venn right on the back of Glazebrook, I thought he was going to have a go up the inside of the final corner, decides against it. But Ethan Pritchard now in the lead and dives into the pit lane. But Ethan Pritchard doesn't realize that there is a queue of karts. So the question is, are these final DMX karts going to be fueled up before Ethan Pritchard gets to the fuel bowser? Remember, it is a walking speed in the pit lane. Nice and slow. I think Ethan Pritchard is going to have this one perfectly fine as he makes his way into the pit lane. No, don't go the wrong way round. Oh, Ethan Pritchard, is he going to be able to cut back through the barriers? He is indeed, but this is going to cost him quite a lot of time because that car is not easily going to get through the barriers. It's going to have to be pushed back, and Ethan Pritchard from second, I think he's going to drop right down the order, and that car being pushed back once again, pushed forward as it navigates its way into the fuel bay. And another driver, I think that's Daniel Crawley, who has followed Ethan Pritchard on the wrong side of the barriers. I think Ethan Pritchard's going to drop from second probably to outside of the top 5, top 6. Jamie Tyler Gooden has pulled away from Don Balasaitis on this lap. Will either of them make their way into the pit lane? Tyler Gooden is into the pits, and I think he's going to be jumping Ethan Pritchard once Ethan Pritchard completes this lap. The question, though, is where will Tyler Gooden come out relative to former race leader, which was James Pedersen, as Pritchard comes out of the pit lane in front of Charlie Fenton and Ryan Taylor. So Charlie Fenton has now found a way through on Ryan Taylor and up into P4, as Luke Power is a few kart lengths up the road. And Tyler Gooden has also gone on the wrong side of the barriers, but this time there's been a bit of a gap that has been opened up in the barriers, so Jamie will lose a bit less time than the rest of the field. We should keep a tally of the amount of drivers that go on the wrong side of that barrier. I have a feeling that we're going to see a few more today. Justin Elliott also into the pit lane. Remember, Justin was right in that battle for the heavyweight lead. 3 karts in the pits. Will Don Balasaitis dive into the pit lane? It might be close, actually. If Don Balasaitis comes in this time round, it'll be close to whether Don will get a free run into the pit lane. He does stay out, as does the likes of Lee Schnitzler and Ian Riley, but James Brown into the pit lane, your D-Max heavyweight championship leader, and he is followed in by one other driver. So James Brown should have a clear fuel bowser, and well, the barriers have been moved to stop anyone else from going on the wrong side of the pit lane. So if anyone manages to go on the wrong side of the barriers now, I think they probably deserve an award for that. I shall quickly pop over to the Aldi and grab a wooden spoon in anticipation of further mistakes. So, where have our leaders come out? Jamie Tyler Gooden is indeed behind James Pedersen. I'm just trying to see where they are out on circuit. I think they're heading through turn 8. Don Balasaitis is now your D-Max and overall race leader, but he does have a pit stop to make, as does Lee Schnitzler, who's also making his way into the hairpin. Then comes Ian Riley, and there is James Pedersen right behind these two. Jamie Tyler Gooden a little bit further back, but Jamie's going to be closing in because Pedersen is stuck behind these two battling heavyweights. He's going to make it 3 abreast, heading into turn 1, goes up the inside of 1, can't find a way through Ian Riley, as Ian Riley continues his battle with, I believe that is Andy Istrate. So Andy Istrate with the black suit and black helmet, as Tyler Gooden sends one up the inside of James Brown. So James Brown, I think, had a very, very good pit stop and has gained a lot of time coming out right behind Jamie Tyler Gooden, who was running in second place in the D-Max lightweight category. Who else is into the pit lane? That is the 105 that I formerly thought was Conor McNamara. That is actually Andrew Hutton. Dom Balasaitis closing in on to a Sodi car. How much longer will Dom stay out on circuit? Will it be a dive into the pit lane this time round? No, he's going to stay out. I think if Dom has found himself to be having a good rhythm and putting in some good laps, then there's no point pitting. Just stay out, keep on pumping in those laps. If you catch up to a big cluster of cars, use that as your opportunity to make a pit stop. Currently for Dom Balasaitis, a 106.9. If we look at Jamie Tyler Gooden, 107.3. James Pedersen, a 107.2. So this is going quite well right now for Dom Balasaitis. He's putting in the laps he needs to make this overcut work. Just going to have a quick look at the order in our Sodi category, because it's been a while since I looked that way. Matthew Glazebrook is leading from Zach Venn. Luke Powell still in third. Then comes Charlie Fenton, Ryan Taylor, Adam Green, Harry Asher, Zayn Khan, Alexei Ivanov, Joseph Fletcher, Barry Morris currently sitting second in category ahead of Aidan Miller. And Hamish Easner was having a really good race, but he has dropped back a fair bit. Hamish Easner currently sitting second in the N35, or pardon me, the Sodi heavyweight category. Dom Balasaitis completes yet another lap. Let's see what this time is looking like for young Dom. A 107.2, matching the pace of Lee Schnitzler, who I believe has come into the pits as Ian Riley stays out. So Schnitzler into the pit lane, and he is followed in as well by the 1-2-1 car of Andy Istrate. So I'm surprised that Andy has followed Schnitzler into the pit lane, because he's going to lose a whole chunk of time as a result. But let's see where Lee comes out of the pits relative to the likes of James Brown, who has already made his pit stop, and indeed Justin Elliott as well. Kuba Wozniak, I believe, has also made his pit stop. Kuba Wozniak currently behind Paul Studd and Ethan Pritchard. Ethan Pritchard losing a lot of time in the pit lane, coming out behind the likes of Jamie Tyler Gooden. We'll see exactly where Jamie is on circuit and then try to work out exactly how much time Ethan Pritchard lost, because Ethan was running in second. So there comes James Pedersen. There is Jamie Tyler Gooden heading into the hairpin of turn 10. And there is Ethan Pritchard in the orange helmet trying to navigate his way through on Justin Elliott and James Brown. So sadly for Ethan Pritchard, he's come out right in the thick of the heavyweight battle as Lee Schnitzler has been released out of pit lane well clear of James Brown and Justin Elliott. So it's been a fantastic pit stop for Schnitzler, and he will be well and truly leading in the heavyweight class. But by how much, I'm not quite sure. Somehow, Lee has had a way shorter stop than pretty much anyone else out on circuit. Lee Schnitzler has come out of the pits in front of James Pedersen. So Lee has gone from battling for the heavyweight class lead to now leading the overall race. How he's managed that, I have absolutely no idea, but managed it, he has done. There comes Schnitzler making his way through the hairpin. And where is James Pedersen? There is James Pedersen through turn 9. So how on earth has Lee managed that? He's gained about 15 seconds in the pit lane, maybe more, maybe 20 seconds to James Pedersen, which is absolutely incredible. Was this a case of some minor speeding in the pit lane is what I'm wondering. Now, where is Dom Balasaitis? Because I think he is just ahead of this group of carts. There goes Dom through turn 5. He's just navigating his way through on a couple of the Sodis. He's got James Pedersen a little bit behind him. And I'm sure Dom will be jumping into the pit lane very shortly. Kuba Wozniak makes his way into the chicane as the 115 of, I believe that is Faisal Merjun, comes into the pit lane from P4. Will not be P4 once this pit stop is done. And there goes Schnitzler through the hairpin, and then comes Balasaitis. And there is James Pedersen. Let's compare the times then of Balasaitis last time round. A 108.1, Pedersen a 106.3, nearly a new fastest lap of the race. As Dom Balasaitis just struggling a bit potentially in that traffic of Sodi carts. He just found a way through this time round then for Balasaitis. A 107.5. What about Pedersen? A 107.9. As Faisal Merjun now leaves the pit lane. let's see where he feeds out relative to the rest of the D-Max category. So Faisal Merjoon comes out in P11 behind Justin Elliott. So your D-Max lightweight leader right now is Don Balasaitis, still has a pit stop to make. I believe the same can be said for Ian Riley. I don't think Ian Riley has made his pit stop. Neither has Sebastian Musica, who's a further 10 seconds back. Both of them running in the heavyweight categories. Lee Schnitzler is your effective leader of the heavyweight class and your overall race leader. Andy Istrait currently running second in the heavyweight class, and that's despite Andy Istrait being behind Lee coming into the pit. So I don't quite know how Andy Istrait and Lee Schnitzler have gained so much time, because there wasn't a full course yellow or anything they pitted under, but they've just gained 15 to 20 seconds in the pit lane. Justin Elliott is right behind James Brown, heading into the chicane of turns 2 and 3. James Brown, red suit, black helmet. Justin Elliott, black suit, black helmet. I believe it has the logo of the karate dojo he either teaches or works at. Or maybe he just fights at and trains there. But either way, it's a cool logo. Actually, it might not be karate, it might be taekwondo. I forget. Ethan Pritchard, though, has found a way through on James Brown and Justin Elliott and can now try to hunt down Andy Istrait, who is a few kart lengths ahead. And then he's got Jamie Tyler-Gooden and James Bedison to close into. Where is Don Balasaitis? Making his way through the hairpin of turn 10. James Bedison is visibly closing in onto Don Balasaitis. And don't forget, Don Balasaitis has his pit stop to make. So currently, Balasaitis is a lap and a bit ahead of James Bedison, which is about the amount that a pit stop takes. Jamie Tyler-Gooden caught in a bit of traffic right now as Ethan Pritchard is right on the back of Andy Istrait. Andy Istrait with the black suit, black helmet just in front of that very visible orange helmet of Ethan Pritchard as they head into the carousel. And then they'll pop back up into view as they head into the hairpin of turn 7. Very open hairpin as James Brown sends one up the inside of one of the Sodi carts. Here's Schnitzler making his way through turn 10. The effective race leader right now is Lee Schnitzler. Balasaitis is happy to stay out for a bit longer. "33 laps of this race are left. Here's Matthew Glazebrook still with Zach Venn right behind him. Our two leading Sodi drivers have been nose to tail for the entire race. So really good performance this from both Glazebrook and Venn. Sebastian Musica will lap the pair of them in the faster D-Max kart. Through turn 1 go our leading duo. Just trying to see if I can spot Luke Power. There is Luke Power making his way through turn 1 now. And there is Ryan Taylor, who is now ahead of Charlie Fenton, and I believe that is Adam Green directly behind him. Just want to check momentarily who is behind Adam Green. Sorry, I think it's Zain Khan who is ahead of Adam Green. Harry Asher also ahead of Zain Khan. Where are they out on circuit? I just want to try to visualize this as Ethan Pritchard has found a way through on Andy Istrait and can now try to hunt down Ian Riley. So Ethan Pritchard making good moves up through the field. Ian Riley still has to make a pit stop. Here comes Glazebrook and Zach Venn. Kuba Wozniak trying to find a way through on... trying to remember who he's battling with. Andrew Hutton, of course it's Andrew Hutton. Don Balasaitis into the pits. So your race leader into the pit lane. Where will he come out? relative, well, to Lee Schnitzler, who is going to be leading the race, but more importantly, to his race rival, James Bettison, who is the lightweight class leader. So Lee Schnitzler making his way into the hairpin. Don Balasaitis' car is being ready. Here is Bettison going through the hairpin of turn 10. Balasaitis onto the power super quickly. This is going to be really tight between Bettison and Balasaitis. Balasaitis is looking over to his left. He's going to come out behind Bettison. But still, a really good stint for Balasaitis because he has gained massively onto Bettison ahead of Tyler Gooden. So your top three then in the lightweight class, James Bettison, Don Balasaitis and Jamie Tyler Gooden. I think Balasaitis could have gone on to the power a bit earlier coming out of the pit lane, but played it safe, made sure he didn't get a speeding in the pit lane penalty. And critically, he's come out right towards the sharp end of the field. We'll see now whether they can catch up to Lee Schnitzler, who's pumping in low 107s, cracking pace from Lee currently. Ian Riley still to pit, as is Sebastian Musica. And then we should be having our D-Max order with everyone having made their one and only scheduled pit stop at the very least. Harry Asher right behind Charlie Fenton heading into the final corner. And right behind Harry Asher is Zain Khan with that grey and green suit, black helmet on top. And Lee Schnitzler has to tuck in behind the pair of them heading into the chicane. There goes Bettison through turn 1. Balasaitis up the inside of Barry Morris into the chicane as he tries to pull away from Jamie Tyler Gooden behind, who gets a little bit sideways out of the chicane and almost scrapes the tyre barriers. Just another welcome to everyone who's tuning in over on the YouTube channel. If anyone at the circuit didn't know, we are streaming this, live streaming it on to YouTube. You can find the stream under my YouTube channel, Milky Cereal. Matthew Glazebrook still under pressure from Zach Venn. What a cracking race this has been from the pair of our Sodis. They're making their way through the final corner now. And Zach Venn has possibly got a run. He's having a look up the inside of Glazebrook. Doesn't quite have the drive. Has to tuck in behind. Matthew Glazebrook heading up to turn 2, the white suit and black helmet. And Zach Venn with the very, very nice suit up the inside of Glazebrook into turn 4. Change for the lead in the Sodi category. Glazebrook holds it around the outside. Going to have the inside into turn 5. Cool, calm stuff from Matthew Glazebrook. Doesn't flinch as Venn sends one up the inside. And now Zach Venn has got a great drive out of turn 5. Up the inside into the carousel. They're still going to be side by side on corner exit. No, they're not. Zach Venn has got the job done. So Zach Venn is leading the race after about half an hour of racing, or what feels like half an hour of racing. Zach Venn has been sat behind Matthew Glazebrook all race long and has finally decided he's had enough. And up the inside he goes, up into the lead of the race. The question is, can he pull away from the field behind him? And the answer to that is no, because look at that. Matthew Glazebrook is back ahead of Zach Venn. So Matthew Glazebrook essentially says, absolutely not, Sonny Jim. I'm not going to let you lead this race and pull away. So technically, Matthew Glazebrook has still led every single lap of this race. Fantastic battling between these two. But critically for Zach Venn, he knows that he can overtake Glazebrook. He has the pace, he has the ability to do it. He just has to pick his moment. As we've got a kart, one of the D-Maxes stopped stationary on the exit of turn 10. Still waiting for Ian Riley and Sebastian Musica to make their pit stops. Matthew Glazebrook, though, leading from Zach Venn. Then comes Luke Power, Ryan Taylor, Charlie Fenton leading in the heavyweight class. Then comes Harry Asher, Zain Khan, Adam Green, Alexei Ivanov, Joseph Fletcher, Barry Morris second in the heavyweights, if I'm not mistaken. And then comes Aidan Miller, Jay Venadi, Hamish Easner, and Oliver Sheether. A 33-kart grid here at Daytona Milton Keynes. Absolutely fantastic to see. So our D-Max car has made its way into the pit lane. Not quite sure what the issue with that is. As here is Ethan Pritchard making his way out of the final corner. He has found a way through on Ian Riley. And now he's trying to hunt down Jamie Tyler-Gooden. I tell you what, Ethan Pritchard is lapping really, really quickly. A 1:08.3 last time round. He's taking half a second out of Balasaitis and Tyler-Gooden. James Pedersen with a 1:10.3 on the last lap has lost nearly 2 seconds to Balasaitis and Tyler-Gooden. So I think we might be having a four-way battle for the race win in the D-Max lightweight category. As this race gets closer and closer to coming to a conclusion. 27 laps remaining. That's equivalent to about half an hour of racing left here at Daytona Milton Keynes. Lee Schnitzler, though, still leads. Sends one up the inside of one of our Sodi carts into the hairpin of turn 10. And there comes Pedersen in that red helmet. Balasaitis in, I think that has got to be my favourite helmet out on circuit. And then comes Tyler-Gooden and Ethan Pritchard. Tyler-Gooden in the replica Lewis Hamilton helmet. Ethan Pritchard in that orange helmet that makes him very easily visible no matter where he is out on circuit. And then we get our heavyweights. Andy Estrait, James Brown, Justin Elliott. And don't forget, Ian Riley is right there amongst them. A pit stop here is just over a lap. So if Ian Riley pits now, I think he's going to be coming out just behind James Brown and Justin Elliott, who are battling side by side coming out of turn 5. James Brown was ahead of Justin Elliott at the start of the lap and now is behind him. Justin Elliott up the inside of James Brown into turn 7. James Brown goes wide. Can he hold on to the position as they head down the hill now towards turn 8? And we'll see whether the order has changed momentarily. Over the crest then they come. There is Ian Riley in the white suit and white helmet. Here is James Brown right behind the black suit, black helmet of Justin Elliott. These two are not working together. James Brown has to slot in behind. Remember, James Brown currently leading the heavyweight championship by 1 point over Ian Riley, Kuba Wozniak. Justin Elliott has only raced in one round this season. A round that he came in P4. We're still waiting for Ian Riley to make his pit stop. He is the current race leader. He won't be leading the race once that pit stop is made. He'll be coming out in about P5, P6 overall. But he'll be coming somewhere between P2 and P5 in the heavyweight class. Kuba Wozniak makes his way through the final corner. Kuba has been really struggling for pace today, as he's trying to hunt down Daniel Crawley, who's heading through the chicane. Last time round then, Lee Schnitzler, 1:07.4. James Pedersen, 1:06.6. Don Balasaitis, 1:06.3. 1:07.6 for Tyler-Gooden. Tyler-Gooden for that final spot on the podium. He wants some silverware. He wants a trophy to take home. And you can see the position right in front of him. And he is hunting down Tyler-Gooden. I won't say at a vast rate of knots, but he is definitely closing in. Last time round for both Tyler-Gooden and Pritchard, 1:06.8. So the gap stays the same that time round. Pedersen with a 1:06.3. Balasaitis a 1:06.6. Schnitzler with a 1:06.7. But Schnitzler is not really being closed in. There is Matthew Glazebrook and Zach Vendt through the final corner to start a brand new lap. You can see them making their way now through turn 1. Matthew Glazebrook heading up the hill now towards turn 2. As up the inside goes Daniel Crawley to put a lap on the Sodi drivers. Just another shout out and a thanks to everyone tuning in on the YouTube chat. If you've got any messages, any support you have for either your friends or family members who might be racing today, drop them in the YouTube comments and I'll shout some of them out on stream. I know Cas Balasaitis has had a let's go, and we are indeed going, and Don Balasaitis is going rather quickly, still closing in on James Pedersen. The pair of them making their way through that long right-hander that is turn 5. And look at Ethan Pritchard. He is practically on the back of Jamie Tyler-Gooden, heading into the carousel of turn 6. Matthew Glazebrook, poor guy, can't catch a break. Zach Vendt is just sitting on his bumper all race long, just reminding him, hey, I'm here. Don't you even think you can get away from me. And I have a feeling Zach Venn, he's already passed Glazebrook once. I'm sure he can do it again. The question is, can he hold on to the lead once he pulls the move off? 23 laps remaining. Here comes Ethan Pritchard trying to navigate his way through on a couple of the Sodi drivers. Can't find any way through, and Jamie Tyler Gooden is going to gain so much time out of this. Tyler Gooden able to get through on these drivers on the straight leading into turn 9. Ethan Pritchard had to effectively sit behind them, but he's not actually lost too much time as Ethan Pritchard. Another 4/10 gained by Don Balasaitis on James Bettison, as the gap between the leading two is narrowing. James Brown side by side with Justin Elliott heading into the carousel. Brown on the inside. These two have been battling for quite a while, and they will continue to battle. And this time it's James Brown who gets the upper hand and takes the position of Justin Elliott for what is P2 in the heavyweight class. Pardon me, P3, because Andy Istray is having an absolute cracker of a race. Currently sitting in second. We're still waiting for Ian Riley to make his pit stop, which surely has to be coming within the next few laps. As over the line goes Bettison and Balasaitis. Bettison 106.2, Balasaitis a 106.5. So Bettison gains 0.3 over Balasaitis on that lap. As up the inside of Zain Khan goes Ethan Pritchard as he continues to try to reel Jamie Tyler Gooden back in after he caught those Sodi drivers right in the wrong spot. Justin Elliott right on the back of James Brown once more, heading into the carousel. Still nose to tail. We've got a few battles out on circuit. James Brown against Justin Elliott, one of the big ones. Probably the biggest though, Matthew Glazebrook and Zach Venn. Here they are heading into the hairpin of turn 10. They've got Lee Schnitzler in that green suit right behind them. Schnitzler gives Glazebrook a little push, which Zach Venn won't be too happy about. And look at that, Bettison has caught up to Schnitzler. So over the last few laps, Bettison has closed into the overall race leader. Now these two are not racing for class position, but they will not care. They will want the pride of winning the race, particularly James Bettison. He will not want to allow a heavyweight driver to beat the lightweight championship leader. And if these two battle, well, that's really going to allow Don Balasaitis to close in. Bettison takes a tighter line to turn 5, can't pull alongside. There is a yellow flag out for the carousel. So the drivers will have to stay in order as they make their way into the hairpin. And it is still Schnitzler who is ahead of Bettison. We'll see whether it remains that way as they make their way up the hill and back into view. It is still indeed Schnitzler ahead of Bettison. And there comes Don Balasaitis just a few seconds behind. How defensive will Schnitzler be driving? He's lost a lot of time to James Bettison. I wonder if he had a mistake, and he points James Bettison through. He doesn't want to lose any time to the rest of the heavyweights, and I'm sure Don Balasaitis will be a little bit upset seeing that, because he would have thought that maybe Schnitzler would have put up a fight against Bettison, allowed him to close in, and that in turn might have allowed the likes of Jamie Tyler Gooden and Ethan Pritchard to close in. I think as a neutral fan, I definitely wanted to see a battle, because a 5-way fight for the overall lead would have been absolutely epic. Glazebrook still has Zach Venn directly behind, heading now into turn 5. Credit to these two for just sticking bumper to bumper all race long. I know I've said it before. I'll say it again because it's been absolutely fantastic to watch these two. Every time I look towards them, they are never separated more than a car length or two. James Bettison has stretched out a few car lengths to Lee Schnitzler. And you can see a different line from Bettison, takes a much wider approach into turn 9. Schnitzler takes a much tighter, really flicks the back end out a lot more. Bettison last time round, 107.8. Balasaitis, 108.0. Let's see what the lap times are this time around. Bettison, 106.7. Balasaitis 106.5, so he gains 1.5 tenths. Question is, will Schnitzler pose much of an issue for Balasaitis, or will he point Balasaitis through like he pointed Betterson through a couple of laps ago? As Ian Riley finally into the pit. So Ian Riley pits from the race lead. This will promote Sebastian Musica into the race lead. I think this is the first time Sebastian Musica has led a race. Still has a pit stop to do. Ian Riley then slowly does it. Out of the car he jumps, and the car will be pushed towards the fuel bowser. You can see Ian Riley on your screen waiting patiently as the car makes its way to the fuel station. Thankfully, he doesn't have to get a credit card and pay at the pump. He already did that when he entered the race. Fuel included here at Daytona Milton Keynes. Barry Morris making his way through turn 1, being hunted down by Aidan Miller. Aidan Miller, who is running third in the Saudi Championship. And Don Balasaitis is now right behind Lee Schnitzler, who I think might point Balasaitis through into turn 4. Never mind, doesn't matter. Balasaitis sends one up his inside regardless and continues his trek up the field. Never mind, Schnitzler fights him back. Holds around the outside. Balasaitis won't be too happy with that, as out comes Ian Riley, and he feeds out behind Justin Elliott and James Brown. So Ian Riley out in P4, I believe that is. Andy Yisrick currently in second ahead of James Brown and Justin Elliott. So Justin Elliott running in P4 currently. Ian Riley in P5, Paul Studd in P6, and Faisal Merjoun in P7 in the heavyweight class. Charlie Fenton has fallen back from Ryan Taylor over the last few laps. Ryan Taylor currently running in P4 behind Luke Power, who is in that number 14 kart. I'm trying to see if I can spot exactly where where Luke Power is. And Balasaitis is now through on Schnitzler. Now, where is Matthew Glazebrook? Here he is. And would you believe it? Zach Venn right on his tail once more through the long left hand of turn 9. And where is Luke Power? Here he is. Here's Luke Power making his way through the hairpin of turn 10. And then there's about 6 or 7 seconds back to Ryan Taylor. 17 laps remaining. Time yet for some drama, particularly at the front of the Saudi category. Zach Venn loses a bit of time to Matthew Glazebrook as he gets lapped by one of the D-Max karts. Don Balasaitis now has Schnitzler right behind him. Out of the final corner, Balasaitis has not been able to stretch ahead of the heavyweight class leader. Through turn 1 they go. And Ethan Pritchard, definitely closing in on Tylee Gooden. But they catch up to Harry Asher right at the wrong spot. Ethan Pritchard would go up the inside of Asher. And this is the fight for P3 in the lightweight class. It's currently P4 overall, but they are closing in on Lee Schnitzler. So it will presumably become P3 overall eventually. Still waiting for Sebastian Musica to make his pit stop. 16 laps are remaining. The fuel bay will, I'm sure, be closing relatively soon as Zach Venn follows Matthew Glazebrook past one of the Saudi karts. A little dab on the brakes into the final corner. One of the things I like about these Saudi karts relative to the N35s that we used to run is the fact that you can see the brake lights. So you can see if they use the brakes into any corners. They don't use the brakes into the chicane, at least not Glazebrook or Venn. They do use it into turn 4. You kind of have to use it into that hairpin. So, lap times. Betterson a 106.6. Balasaitis a 106.3. He is now 2.5 seconds behind James Betterson. Lee Schnitzler is a further 1.2 seconds back. I would have thought that'd charge it. All right, everyone. Battle still occurring. I think the batteries on my old mic died. I don't know how long ago that was. But I know that we are at the very least back now. So James Bettison, last time round, 106.5, 106.7. Oh, sorry, 106.5 for Bettison, 107.1 for Balasatis. So he's dropped about 6/10 on that lap. We're still waiting for Sebastian Musica to make his eventual pit stop, as Matthew Glazebrook and Zach Venn come across the line once more. Ethan Pritchard, every time he closes in onto Tyler Gooden, he then seems to fall back as he catches up to back markers. But now they've caught up to Lee Schnitzler. How much of a fight will Schnitzler pose? Oh, Tyler Gooden aggressively to the inside, across Schnitzler's front end as he goes up the inside of Zach Venn. Glazebrook will let the trio through, and up the inside goes Ethan Pritchard on Lee Schnitzler, wasting no time at all. And up into P4 overall, still P4 in class. Tyler Gooden and Pritchard fighting for that final step on the podium. Ethan Pritchard then now ahead of Sebastian, or not Sebastian, Lee Schnitzler. And there is a lot of clear air in front of these D-Max drivers. So a few laps now that Ethan Pritchard will have that he can really try to reel in Jamie Tyler Gooden. He's only got about a few tenths that he needs to find. But maybe most importantly, he needs to find a way past Tyler Gooden. Because every time he's right behind Tyler, or every time he's right behind Jamie, once they catch up to back markers, that's where he loses time. Ian Riley trying to close in onto Justin Elliott. James Brown and Justin Elliott making their way down now towards turn 5. They're closing in onto Andy Istrate, and the gap is only a second and a bit. And Ian Riley is a further 4.5 seconds back. 12 laps remaining in the race. Kuba Wozniak has had a nightmare of a race, one that he will want to forget, and probably going to be his drop score for the day. Ethan Pritchard right behind Tyler Gooden takes a much tighter line into turn 10. So has a lower minimum speed, and as a result has a slightly worse drive coming out of the corner. There is Andy Istrate heading through turn 10, and right behind him James Brown, Justin Elliott. And there's Matthew Glazebrook leading in the Sodi category ahead of Zach Venn. And there is Ian Riley just behind him with Javen Addy in that blue suit and green helmet. Oh, battle here between some D-Maxes. Red suit up the inside. Great move. Now, where is James Bettison? He was 3 seconds ahead of Don Balasatis last time round. Here is Bettison into the hairpin. Ethan Pritchard is closing in onto Tyler Gooden as Sebastian Musica finally into the pits, leaving it pretty much as late as possible for this pit stop. It means his pit stop's going to be longer than anyone else because he'll have less fuel in his kart. If you pit early on into the race, you're stationary for less time. The plus side, though, is you're racing with less fuel in the kart, so a slight weight advantage in that regard. But not a huge one. which is why I think it's always best to pit right at the start of the race, so you're putting in as little fuel as possible into the kart. Which would technically mean that now Sebastian Musica will have more fuel than anyone else in his kart, so his kart's technically the slowest of everyone out on circuit due to the extra couple of kilos of fuel that is in the tank. Tyler Gooden and Pritchard are now closing in on to some of our back markers. And will this provide an opportunity for Pritchard to make an overtake for third, or is this going to give Jamie Tyler Gooden an opportunity to pull away, as there is Sebastian Musica out of the pit lane. He will come out in P15 behind Andrew Hutton. James Brown still with Justin Elliott right behind him as they try to close in onto Andy Istrate, who's going around the outside of turn 4. There is a yellow flag. And James Brown passes, I believe, Charlie Fenton under that yellow flag. No, I know they are in different classes. Oh, is that yellow flag? Actually, am I seeing that wrong? I think the yellow flag is actually for turn 6, so never mind. From here, it looked like the yellow flag was for turn 5. In onto Don Balasatis. The fuel bay is now closed. Everyone has made their pit stops. Entirely good and trying to find a way through on one of our Sodis. That's going to give Ethan Pritchard a really big opportunity to close in. And once again, they're separated by just a few tenths of a second. Your top 5 separated by 8.2 seconds. There goes Andy Istrate, followed by James Brown and Justin Elliott. James Brown has really pulled from Justin Elliott over the last few laps. And James Brown is now right behind Andy Istrate, heading down into turn 5. We only have 8 laps remaining, but the battle for second place in the heavyweight class is well and truly underway as James Brown looks to extend his lead in the championship over both Ian Riley and Kuba Wozniak. This could be a really good result, though, for Andy Istrate. His first race of the season in Super Champs. And a second place would be a fantastic result as Tyler Gooden goes up the inside of Ryan Taylor. Ethan Pritchard follows him through. Sun is beginning to set here at Daytona Milton Keynes. Will we have any late drama? I need to have a look at Matthew Glazebrook and Zach Venn. I'm sure those two are still trading lap times between the pair of them. Where is Matthew Glazebrook, though, is the question. Presumably coming out of turn 8 now. We'll see if we can spot him in a second. There they are. Matthew Glazebrook with Zach Venn directly behind, heading into turn 9. Still barely a kart length, not even a kart length separating them as they head into the final corner. Jamie Tyler Gooden seems to be really good out of turn 8. That's where he's pulling a gap to Ethan Pritchard. And turn 9 and turn 10 are the best overtaking points on the circuit. So as long as Jamie Tyler Gooden keeps on nailing turn 8, it's going to be practically impossible for Ethan Pritchard to find a way through. The only other real overtaking spot that Ethan Pritchard has is turn 4. If you can get a good run through this chicane, which Ethan Pritchard has done, you can send it up the inside into the hairpin, because it is such a wide entry, such a late apex, that there is a huge gap on the inside that you can take advantage of. Not this time round, though, for Ethan. 2.8 seconds at the front between Bettison and Balasatis. And then a further 3.5 seconds back is Tyler Gooden and Ethan Pritchard. 1 and a bit seconds between Andy Istrate and James Brown. Then a further half a second to Justin Elliott. And Andy Istrate has really pulled from James Brown on that last lap or so. James Brown losing 7 tenths on that lap to Andy Istrate, who's put in a very quick 67.1, lapping quicker than Don Balasatis was, and Jamie Tyler Gooden. I tell you what, if Matthew Glazebrook can win this race, he would have thoroughly deserved it to keep Zach Venn behind for this long. Ethan Pritchard and Jamie Tyler Gooden will lap the pair of them. 5 laps to go. We've had tantalisingly close racing, tantalisingly close battles all evening long. Even back in the Elite Karting Series earlier on today, we had some phenomenal battling in the D-Max lightweight class. Nose to tail then for Glazebrook and Venn heading through the carousel. And they will remain in that order as Schnitzler closes in to put a lap on the pair of them. James Brown has Justin Elliott still right on his heel for company. Barry Morris, I think, has closed in on to... Is that Charlie Fenton? I don't think it is. Or it might be, you know. I think it's actually Joseph Fletcher. Charlie Fenton still leading in the heavyweight class. Here is James Brown closing in to putting a lap on Sebastian Musica, who is currently running in P15, having passed Alex Wood a couple of laps ago. And Ethan Pritchard is once again right on the back of Jamie Tyler Gooden, heading through the carousel. There's Charlie Fenton going through turn 10. And here is, pardon me, that is Daniel Crawley heading through the hairpin. There's Kuba Wozniak just behind. So Kuba Wozniak still a chance to gain a few positions and make amends for what has been, by his standards, a very poor... Oh, what's that? Jamie Tyler Gooden's gone wide. Jamie Tyler Gooden has gone wide. Was there contact between Jamie and Ethan Pritchard heading through that long left-hander? There's a hand up in frustration from Tyler Gooden, so I think he's going to be saying Ethan Pritchard made contact. I'm going to guess that they went side by side into that long left-hander, and that can so often end in disaster. Now, was it a case that Tyler Gooden squeezed Pritchard and kind of sent himself into the grass, or was it Ethan Pritchard running Tyler Gooden onto the grass? And I think that's going to be one that the stewards are going to be having a look at through the camera system. There'll be a rewinding time and having a look at exactly what happened. That is if the marshals themselves didn't spot the incident. Will there be a penalty for Ethan Pritchard? 3 laps remaining. Well, 2 laps once James Bedison crosses the line. Here is James Bedison through the final corner. Want to keep an eye out on Matthew Glazebrook and Zach Venn. Just make sure that they're still having their little scrap, or their mega scrap. Here they are, heading into turn 10. Defensive line from Glazebrook. Zach Venn still right behind. And up the inside goes Zach Venn. He goes for the move. Lets the car go out wide. Glazebrook try to hang it around the outside. Realised there was no space, and then it was too late to go for the switchback. So Zach Venn takes the lead of the Sodi category with just 2 laps remaining. Game on, Matthew. Matthew's been able to get past Zach Venn once before. Can he do it again? And Zach Venn's going to be very eager to get his head down and pull away, but Matthew Glazebrook is staying right on the back of Zach Venn, and I think we're going to be having a fantastic fight for the win in our Sodi category to end what has been a brilliant day of racing here at Daytona Milton Keynes. James Bedison makes his way on to the final lap of the race. And now we wait for Zach Venn to come into view. Will he still be ahead of Matthew Glazebrook? He has been so patient today. There is Zach Venn. There is Matthew Glazebrook right behind him. Glazebrook is going up the inside of Zach Venn. So Glazebrook, within a lap, fights back, retakes the lead, heading into the hairpin of turn 10. A little bit of contact between the pair of them. And Glazebrook looking across to see how long is left in the race. Through the final corner they go, and it is 1 lap remaining. Matthew Glazebrook, he's got himself a half a second lead. Can he keep Zach Venn at bay? That is the biggest lead Matthew Glazebrook has had all race long, and all he needs to do now is bring this one home. However, James Pedersen has been flawless today. What a drive. James Pedersen will take his 3rd race win of the season. He takes the checkered flag. Dom Balasatis with a very, very good P2. Ethan Pritchard will take P3 ahead of Jamie Tyler Gooden, who will not be happy with that P4 after whatever incident happened between the pair of them. Lee Schnitzler will win in the heavyweight class ahead of Andy Istray, who has had a mega drive. Huge congrats to Andy Istray on the 2nd place. James Brown comes home in 3rd ahead of Justin Elliott. And then Ian Riley. Now, where are our Sodis? Is the battle still going? Kind of, but kind of not. Matthew Glazebrook has maintained this half a second lead. Twice Glazebrook has been overtaken by Zach Venn, and twice Matthew Glazebrook has fought back to retake the lead, and Matthew Glazebrook will round the final corner to make it a hat-trick of wins in the Sodi class. Fantastic drive from Matthew Glazebrook, and full kudos to Zach Venn for being right on the tail of Glazebrook all race long. They fist bump each other on the way towards turn 2, and if there is any race to give a fist bump to a competitor, that is one of those. Cracking drive from the pair of them. Alexei Ivanov will take Zain Khan will come home in P3. Sorry, what am I looking at? Luke Power comes home in P3. Ryan Taylor will take P4. Charlie Fenton will win in the heavyweight class. Harry Asher will take P5 in the lightweight class ahead of Zain Khan. Then comes Alexei Ivanov, Adam Green, Joseph Fletcher, Barry Morris, Aidan Miller, Jay Venadi, Hamish Easoner, Oliver Sheether, Ollie Walker, and the Anonymous of Kart 116. A big thank you to everyone who came to the circuit to watch some fantastic racing. And a big thank you to everyone watching on the YouTube stream at home. We hope you enjoyed all of the racing today. We'll be back tomorrow with more racing action on the YouTube channel for the Junior Sprint League and the InKart Championships. But to everyone watching at home, thank you very much for tuning in. And to those watching at the circuit, we'll be signing off from the Tannoys now. And we'll see everyone up in the pavilion for drivers' presentations shortly. Thank you, everyone, and have a good evening.